Welcome back to the channel, where we simplify cybersecurity. I'm Greg Flatt from Flat Earth Networking, and in each video we break down complex cybersecurity topics into clear, actionable insights, helping you protect your organization effectively and affordably. If you find our content helpful, consider subscribing to stay updated on future cybersecurity tips. Today, we're going to answer the question, why cybersecurity frameworks matter for small businesses. Imagine coming into the office one morning to find all of your computers frozen and a hacker's message demanding a ransom. It sounds like a nightmare, but for many small and medium businesses, it's a real threat. In fact, roughly half of cyber attacks today target small businesses, and nearly 60% of those businesses close their doors within 6 months of a breach. Cyber incidents can be devastating, from losing customer trust and money to even shutting down the business. The good news is, it doesn't have to be this way. Just as you would use a map on a road trip to avoid getting lost, business owners can use a roadmap for cybersecurity to navigate threats and avoid disasters. One of the most trusted maps out there is the NIST Cybersecurity Framework. What is the NIST Cybersecurity Framework? In plain terms, it's a set of best practices and guidelines designed to help organizations understand, manage, and reduce their cybersecurity risk. It was created by the U.S. National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, and has become a go-to resource for improving cybersecurity without needing a deep technical background. Think of it as a common language and a step-by-step guide that helps you figure out where to focus your time and money for cybersecurity. For a non-technical business owner, that means the framework can break down a complex topic into something manageable, much like a GPS giving you turn-by-turn directions on the road to cyber safety. In this video, we'll travel that road together. We'll start with a bit of history. How did this framework come about? Then explore its 5 core functions: identity, protect, detect, respond, and recover, using everyday analogies so that they make sense. We'll look at a real success story and a cautionary tale to see why following this roadmap matters. And importantly, I'll give you actionable steps you can take today to start using the NIST Cybersecurity Framework principles in your business. By the end, you should see cybersecurity not as an overwhelming technical maze, but as a journey you can navigate with confidence and the right guidance. So buckle up and let's get started on the road to better cybersecurity for your business. First, a quick history of the NIST Cybersecurity Framework. Why does it even exist? The story goes back to 2013, a time when cyber threats were becoming front-page news due to some very high-profile attacks. That year, the U.S. president realized that the country's critical industries, like banking, energy, and healthcare, needed better cyber defenses. In February 2013, President Barack Obama issued an executive order calling on NIST, a federal agency known for its technology standards, to work with industry experts and craft a fundamental framework to improve cybersecurity and critical infrastructure. In response, NIST brought together hundreds of people from government, businesses, and academia to figure out a practical approach that any organization could use to manage their cyber risks. Just 1 year later, in early 2014, the first version of the cybersecurity framework was released. Initially, the NIST Cybersecurity Framework was voluntary guidance mainly intended for big industries vital to national security. But something interesting happened. Many organizations outside those sectors, including medium and even small businesses, looked at the framework and found it really useful. It provided a clear structure to think about security without starting from scratch. Over time, the NIST Cybersecurity Framework popularity grew worldwide as kind of a gold standard for cybersecurity planning. Recognizing this, NIST updated the framework in 2018 to version 1.1 and then again in 2024 to version 2.0, with even more focus on helping small and mid-sized businesses. In fact, the latest update explicitly expanded the framework to organizations of all sizes and industries, answering calls to make it more accessible for smaller firms. In short, the NIST Cybersecurity Framework was created by experts, but for everyone. Think of it as a product of public and private collaboration. Government officials, security pros, and business leaders all contributed to make the framework that translates cybersecurity into a common language any business can use. It's not a law or a regulation. You won't get fined for not using it, but following its guidance can greatly reduce the chance that your business becomes the next victim of a cyber attack. It's like having a well-charted map in territory filled with hazards. You could travel without it, but why take the risk? Now that we know where the cybersecurity framework came from and why it was created, let's dive into what it actually contains. The framework isn't a huge technical manual. At its heart, it boils down to just 5 functions that cover the life cycle of managing cybersecurity. We can think of these 5 functions as the main pillars or stages on our cybersecurity journey. We'll go through each in turn and relate them to things you deal with in everyday life. By understanding these, you'll have the gist of the whole framework. What are the 5 functions of the NIST Cybersecurity Framework? First, we have identify. The first function, identify, is all about knowing what you have and what risks you face. After all, you can't protect something if you don't know that it exists. In practice, this means developing a clear picture of your business's assets, data, and resources, and the threats to them. Think of it like the first step in securing your home. First, you'd walk through the house and identify all of your valuables and entry points. Where are the important things? And what would a burglar possibly target? In a business, identify involves making an inventory of your hardware, computers, phones, servers, your software, the programs you use, and the data, from customer information to financial records. It also means understanding your business context. What processes are critical? What crown jewels of data would cause chaos if they were stolen or destroyed? Who has access to what? Essentially, identify is mapping out your cyber territory, the equivalent of drawing a floor plan and listing everything inside. By identifying what is most important, you can prioritize your security efforts. For example, a retail shop might identify that its point of sale system and customer credit card data are critical assets to protect. A manufacturing firm might realize that a certain production database or a patent design is its lifeblood. This step also includes identifying vulnerabilities and weak spots, like an old server that isn't updated or sensitive data stored on an employee's laptop. Don't worry about fixing anything yet. Identify is just gathering knowledge and understanding your environment. It lays the groundwork for everything that follows. As the saying goes, know thyself. In cybersecurity, know your digital self and your risk landscape. Once you know what your critical assets are, the next step is to protect them. The protect function is all about putting safeguards and defenses in place to minimize the chances of an incident or to limit the damage if one happens. In everyday terms, if identify was figuring out what valuables and doors your house has, protect is about installing the locks, alarm systems, and maybe a security fence. For a business, protect covers a wide range of proactive measures. This can include access control, for example, making sure that only unauthorized people can log into your systems or enter certain areas, using security tools like firewalls or antivirus software, and encrypting sensitive data so that even if someone steals it, they can't read it without the key. It also means regular backups of important data, so if data is lost or held hostage by ransomware, you have copies safely stored. Just like a store owner might have a nightly routine to lock up and set the alarm, a business should have routines like applying software updates, patches, to fix known security flaws or retiring old security equipment that's no longer used. Protect isn't only about technology. It's also about people and processes. A lock is useless if someone leaves the door propped open. Even if the best firewall won't help if an employee clicks a malicious email link. That's why training your staff in basic cybersecurity awareness is a key part of Protect. Something as simple as teaching employees how to spot phishing emails or use strong, unique passwords or a password manager, this goes a long way. You're essentially creating a culture of security where everyone has a role in keeping the business safe. Under the Protect function, your business might establish policies like requiring two-factor authentication for remote access, so a stolen password alone can't let an intruder in, or regularly reminding everyone not to plug in unknown USB drives. These may sound like small steps, but together they harden your defenses. The NIST Cybersecurity Framework encourages such layered protection. Multiple gates an attacker has to get through. It's like having a fence, plus locked doors, plus an alarm. Each one adds safety. The goal of Protect is to limit or contain the impact of potential cybersecurity events, so that if something does go wrong, it doesn't turn into a catastrophe. Even with strong protections, no security is 100% foolproof. Just as a determined burglar might find a way in despite your locks and alarm, in cybersecurity we must assume that at some point someone could slip through. That's where the detect function comes in. It's about being able to notice when something unusual or malicious is happening and doing so quickly. Early detection is critical. If you know you have an intruder now, you can respond before they spend days digging through your files. In more relatable terms, detect is like having smoke detectors for a fire or motion sensors for security cameras in a building. They might not prevent a break-in by themselves, but they alert you immediately so you can take action and minimize damage. For businesses, detect can involve both technology and procedures. On the tech side, it could mean using intrusion detection systems or even simpler measures like setting up alerts on your network. For example, you might configure your systems to send an alert if there are 5 failed login attempts on an account, or if a new device connects to the company network at 2 a.m. Many small businesses already have some detection and don't even realize it. Even the notification from your bank about a suspicious transaction or an email service warning about a login from a new location, those are detection mechanisms. On the procedural side, detect means staying vigilant, regularly checking logs, watching for strange behavior, and making sure someone is responsible for noticing anomalies. The NIST framework emphasizes establishing processes to monitor for anomalous activity continuously. For instance, you might designate an employee or an IT service to review security logs once a week, or to use managed security services to watch your network. Here's an example of detect in action. Suppose an employee's account gets compromised after they reused a password that was stolen from another site. Good detection systems could flag that account if it's suddenly downloading a large amount of data at midnight, something that an employee never does. That alert gives you a chance to intervene immediately, suspending the account and blocking access before too much is lost. In short, detect is your early warning system. It means you're not blind to attacks in progress. As the framework puts it, detect enables the timely discovery of cybersecurity events, and timely discovery can make all the difference between a contained incident and a full-blown breach. All right, so your alarms have gone off and you've detected a problem. Respond is what you do next. This function is about taking action to contain and mitigate the impact of a cybersecurity incident that has been detected. If we go back to the physical analogy, you come home and the burglar alarm is blaring. A window is broken. Respond is calling the police, using a fire extinguisher on a small fire, or locking down the building so the intruder can't move room to room. In business terms, respond means having a plan and executing it when an incident happens. The NIST Cybersecurity Framework encourages organizations to develop an incident response plan ahead of time, so that you're not scrambling to decide what to do in the heat of the moment. So what might a response plan include for a small business? It can be simple. For example, if you suspect a computer is infected with malware, your response might be disconnect it from the network. That stops the spread. Call your IT support or consultant. Switch over to a backup system if available, and notify the manager or owner. Response also covers communication, deciding who needs to be informed and how. If customer data might have been compromised, you'll need to notify those customers and perhaps regulators. If a ransomware attack is underway, you might need to involve law enforcement. These can be tough calls, but planning in advance means when the stress is on, you have a checklist to follow. The framework specifically suggests having plans for things like notifying customers and employees, keeping critical operations running, informing law enforcement, and analyzing the incident to understand what happened. For example, if your customer database is hacked, your response steps might include emailing affected customers about what data was exposed and what you're doing about it. An effective response is about containment and coordination. Going back to our earlier detection example, an account misused at midnight, the response phase would be to disable the account, ensure the attacker is locked out, and then investigate what they accessed while also shoring up any weaknesses they exploited. It's triage and damage control. Think of Respond as the firefighters arriving at the scene, limiting the blaze, rescuing what they can, and preventing further harm. The cybersecurity framework's Respond function ensures that you're not just reacting in panic, you're executing a considered strategy to handle the incident. Businesses that respond well can drastically reduce the harm done. For instance, containing a data breach quickly might mean only 100 records were stolen instead of 10,000. A strong response can turn a potential disaster into a manageable event. Finally, after the incident is handled, there's recover, the fifth core function. Recover is about getting your business back to normal and learning lessons to improve future resilience. In the aftermath of an incident, it is time to restore and repair. In a physical sense, if a storm knocks out the power lines, recover is about rebuilding those lines and getting the lights back on. In cybersecurity, recover involves things like restoring data from backups, repairing affected systems, and strengthening your defenses for the future. The goal is to minimize downtime and impacts on your business and your customers. The NIST Cybersecurity Framework highlights the need for organizations to have recovery plans in place. So if the worst happens, you already know how to get back on your feet. What does recovery look like for a small business? Let's say you fell victim to a ransomware attack that encrypted some of your files. If you have good backups, part of protect, recovery means you can wipe the infected computers, reinstall clean software, and restore your data from backup copies. You might also put out communications to your customers or public if necessary, explaining any service outages and reassuring them what's being done. Transparency can be important for trust, so informing customers or partners during the recovery phase is often a good idea. Recover also includes the idea of improvement, analyzing how the incident happened and what changes you need to make so it doesn't happen again. For example, if the breach occurred because the employee's password was compromised, recovery might involve rolling out a multi-factor authentication system or improving password policies moving forward. Think of recover as the aftermath and reflection phase. You're repairing damage and learning from the experience. A strong recovery could involve updating your response plan with lessons learned, maybe the incident revealed a step you missed, or investigating new tools if needed. Many businesses also take this time to reassure stakeholders. For instance, a retailer that had a data breach might offer credit monitoring to affected customers and then highlight the new security measures put in place. The NIST framework's inclusion of recover reminds us that cybersecurity is a continuous process, not a one-and-done task. Bad things can still happen, so we plan for resilience, that ability to bounce back quickly. If the identify and protect functions were like trying to prevent a breach, recover, along with respond, assumes breaches may still happen and focuses on damage control and business continuity. By having backups and a recovery plan ready, many companies have survived attacks that would have otherwise been fatal. Recover is about restoring normal operations and reducing downtime, and coming out of the incident wiser and better prepared. Those are the 5 core functions: identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. Together they form a holistic and iterative approach, a cycle. You don't do each one in isolation or only once. They continue throughout the life of your business's cybersecurity program. You can visualize them as a continuous circle. In fact, NIST often shows them in a wheel diagram, because improving in one function often influences others. Importantly, these functions are not highly technical. They are outcomes every business leader can understand. You might delegate the nitty-gritty to IT staff or service providers, but as an owner or manager, you can grasp these 5 areas and ask the right questions. Have we identified our assets? Are we protecting them adequately? How would we detect a problem? Do we have a response plan? And can we recover quickly? This framework turns a huge challenge into 5 more digestible parts. Let's bring this to life with a couple of real-world stories. The first is a cautionary tale about what could happen without strong cybersecurity frameworks. The second is a positive example that shows the value of these practices in action. Let's call example 1 the cost of "it won't happen to us." A medium-sized manufacturing company, let's call them ACME Widgets, had about 100 employees. They had IT systems and data that were critical to their operation, but security wasn't their top priority. They figured they were too small to be targeted by hackers. One Monday morning, several employees came in to find an alarming message on their screens. Your files have been encrypted. Pay $200,000 for the decryption key. AMCE Widgets had been hit by a ransomware attack. How? Later forensics found that the hackers got through a very simple vulnerability, an easy-to-guess administrator password that hadn't been changed. The company's identify phase was lacking. They didn't realize that an older user account with a weak password was an open door. Their protect measures were also weak. No multi-factor authentication. No routine security updates that might have fixed the holes that the attackers exploited. Panicked, AMCE's leadership did what the ransom note said. They paid the hackers $200,000 in Bitcoin to get the decryption key, but the nightmare didn't end there. The first key they paid for only restored part of their data. The criminals came back demanding an additional $250,000 for the rest. Their cyber insurance covered some of the first payment, but not the rest. Meanwhile, the company's operations were ground to a halt. They couldn't access their production schedules, their shipping systems, or their digital designs. For a couple weeks, they tried to limp along with manual processes, pen and paper, but it wasn't enough. They missed orders and hemorrhaged money. Eventually, AMCE Widgets had to shut down operations for over a month and temporarily lay off a large portion of their staff because there was no work they could do. All told, the company paid out $450,000 to attackers and lost more in downtime and damaged reputation. Customers and partners started doubting if AMCE could be trusted with data or if they were reliable suppliers. It was a disaster. Now, looking at this through the lens of the NIST Cybersecurity Framework, you can see the missing pieces. They hadn't identified that a legacy account was at risk. They lacked basic protections like strong passwords or an incident response plan. They had no quick recovery method. Their backups were not properly maintained or secured. As a result, when the attack struck, they were unprepared to respond or recover effectively. The consequences were devastating, but also preventable. This is the kind of story that underscores why small and mid-sized businesses need to care about cybersecurity. It's not just an IT problem, it's a business survival problem. AMCE's ordeal might have been avoided or greatly mitigated if they had implemented even a few of the NIST Cybersecurity Framework principles beforehand. Now let's look at example number 2. We'll call it Prevention Pays Off. For a contrast, let's consider a small professional services firm, say a 20-person accounting company called BrightBooks. Because they deal with sensitive financial information, BrightBooks decided early to take cybersecurity seriously. They didn't have a huge IT department, but the owner followed the guidance from the NIST Cybersecurity Framework to improve their security step by step. First, they identified what critical data and systems they had: client financial records on a server, accounting software, and emails. They cataloged who had access to these and noted that a lot of work happened via laptops that employees took home. Next, they put in preventive measures. All laptops and the server were set up with full disk encryption and password managers to enforce strong passwords. They enabled multi-factor authentication on email and remote logins, so a stolen password alone wasn't enough to break in. They also made sure backups of the server ran every night to a secure cloud service. They even had some brief training sessions where employees learned about phishing emails and safe internet practices. Nothing too fancy, just basic awareness. BrightBooks didn't spend a fortune on this. They used affordable, off-the-shelf security software and free guidance from resources like the NIST Small Business website. Now, was all that effort worth it? One morning, an employee at BrightBooks received a very convincing email that looked like a client invoice with an attachment. Because of their training, the employee felt something was off. The email tone didn't sound like the client, so they didn't click the attachment and alerted their manager. This turned out to be a phishing attempt carrying malware. Thanks to the employee's caution, a result of good protection function training, the attack was stopped before it could cause harm. But let's say the employee had clicked it and the malware started spreading. What then? This is where BrightBooks' detect and respond preparation would kick in. Their antivirus might flag the suspicious file, and if a computer started acting strangely, they had a plan to disconnect it from the network and call in their IT support. Even in a worst-case scenario, say ransomware did hit the server, BrightBooks had a daily backup of all critical data. They could restore their files without paying the ransom. In a matter of hours or days, Studies have shown that companies with reliable, tested backups can dramatically reduce the impact of ransomware. Effectively, backups can cut the severity of an attack by around 40% on average. In BrightBooks' case, this means a ransom attack might have been a nuisance rather than a business-ending event. Indeed, a year later, one of the employees did have their email account compromised. The person reused a password from another breach site. It happens. The hacker tried to use the email to trick BrightBooks clients into sending money. But BrightBooks had set up an alert for any email forwarding rules that added accounts, a very common malicious tactic. They caught the odd behavior within hours, and as part of their response plan, they notified the affected clients, reset the employee's credentials, now with even stricter rules, and reported the incident to authorities since it involved potential fraud. Because they acted so quickly, no money was stolen and the damage was negligible. BrightBooks also improved their process by rolling out a policy that all passwords must be unique and enabling an extra security step on email. In the end, their clients were impressed with how transparently and swiftly BrightBooks handled the situation. It actually built trust. This positive story shows that even a small business following the cybersecurity framework principles, identifying your risks, protecting proactively, watching for issues, and having a ready response and recovery plan, can turn a potential catastrophe into just a learning experience or a minor blip. BrightBooks didn't need any huge IT budget or specialized skills. They needed forethought and the willingness to implement best practices. The framework was the roadmap, and by following it, they avoided the fate of companies like AMCE Widgets. These two examples highlight a key point. Cybersecurity for small to medium enterprises isn't theoretical. It's very real, and the outcomes are stark. Not using a framework or best practices is like driving without a seatbelt. You might get away with it for a while, but when an accident happens, the results can be tragic. Using a framework like the NIST Cybersecurity Frameworks is like having not just seatbelts, but airbags, anti-lock brakes, and a good emergency plan on a road trip. It doesn't guarantee you'll never have an incident, but it drastically improves your odds of survival and success when something unexpected occurs. By now, you're probably thinking, this makes sense, but how do I begin? The NIST Cybersecurity Framework might sound comprehensive, and it is. But you can start small and scale your efforts. You don't need to become a cybersecurity expert or overhaul everything overnight. Here are some specific actionable steps you can take today to begin exploring or using the framework in your business. Begin by educating yourself a bit more on the framework and why it matters. NIST's website offers free resources. In fact, there's a small business quick start guide designed for companies with little or no cybersecurity plan. This guide breaks down the framework into manageable steps for small to medium enterprises. Consider downloading it and skimming through it to get ideas. Share what you learn with your leadership team or key employees. Let them know that cybersecurity isn't just an IT problem, but a business priority, and that you're adopting a well-respected approach, the cybersecurity framework, to tackle it. You might be surprised when your staff understands why security measures are put in place. For example, we're enabling multi-factor authentication because it significantly lowers the chance of a breach. They are more likely to support and follow them. Set a positive, proactive tone from the top. This is about protecting our company's future together. No deep technical jargon needed. Focus on the concepts. The goal is to make cybersecurity a shared responsibility and an ongoing conversation. Next, identify your critical assets and risks. Using the cybersecurity framework's first function, do a quick inventory. Make a list of the hardware and software your business relies on daily. List the types of data you have, customer contact info, sales records, intellectual property, and then ask yourself, which of these, if lost or compromised, would seriously hurt the business? Also consider where this stuff resides, on a local server, in the cloud, or on employees' laptops, and who has access to it. This exercise doesn't cost anything and immediately gives you a clearer picture of your digital assets. As you list things, you'll naturally spot some gaps or worries. For example, you might realize, we've never changed the default password on our Wi-Fi router, or only one person knows the admin login for our e-commerce site, or we have customer files on a salesperson's laptop that isn't encrypted. That's gold. You're identifying vulnerabilities. Prioritize the most critical items and the biggest gaps. You might decide our client database is critical. We need to make sure it is backed up and only accessible to the right people. Or our point of sale tablets are a potential risk if not secured. This creates your to-do list for protection. Next, implement some basic protections, the low-hanging fruit. With your list of priorities, tackle some quick wins on the protect front. Many effective protections are neither expensive nor highly technical. Start with access controls. Ensure each employee has their own unique login for the systems, no shared accounts, and limit admin privileges to those who really need it. Next, update your software. Enabling automatic updates on your operating systems and applications if possible, so known security holes get patched. Set up antivirus or enable the built-in security features of your operating system. Windows, for example, comes with Defender antivirus, which is quite solid when kept up to date. Back up your data if you aren't already, even if it's to an external hard drive that you disconnect and store safely, or a reputable cloud backup service. The ability to restore your information can save your business, as we saw. Also, strongly consider using multi-factor authentication, MFA, wherever you can, especially for email, bank accounts, and remote logins. MFA, like a code on your phone in addition to a password, is one of the most effective tools to prevent unauthorized access. Many breaches, including some really big ones, could have been stopped by MFA. The good news is that a lot of services, Microsoft 365, Gmail, QuickBooks, and others, offer MFA options. Sometimes it's just a matter of turning it on. Don't forget the human element. Start training and raising awareness among your employees. You don't need formal classes. Even short meetings to discuss recent phishing scams or an email with tips can help. Make cybersecurity a regular topic, like safety talks in a warehouse. When people know that you take it seriously, they will too. Over time, you can build more detailed policies, like rules for handling customer data or steps for onboarding and offboarding employees securely. But at the beginning, focus on instilling good, basic habits. Next, set up ways to detect issues early. You might think detection requires fancy tools, but you can start simple. For instance, enable email alerts for unusual events. Many systems let you get notified of things like a new login from an unfamiliar location or multiple failed login attempts. Your bank and credit card accounts probably already do this for fraud. Making sure those alerts are on and that someone will review them. If you have an IT provider, ask them what monitoring they can do and if they can configure some basic intrusion detection. If not, even low-tech measures can be useful. Check your user accounts periodically for any strange new accounts, and keep an eye on device activity. Like, if a normally quiet computer hard drive is running nonstop, that could be a sign of malware. Establish an internal process. Who would notice if, say, a database was accessed at an odd hour? It could be as straightforward as reviewing logs from your website or server once a week. There are many affordable security services for small businesses now, sometimes included with software you already use, that can watch for known threats. The key is to have eyes on glass, meaning someone or some service looking out for red flags. And when a potential issue is detected, encourage a culture of reporting it. If an employee accidentally clicks something suspicious or loses a work phone, they should feel comfortable reporting it immediately, rather than fearing punishment. Early detection can save you, but you can't detect what you're not looking for. So put a bit of effort into this. It can be as low-tech as an agreed-upon procedure. If you see something weird or a system acts up, call Bob in IT or Alice, the office manager, immediately, no matter how minor it seems. Next, build a response game plan. This is essentially your emergency response cheat sheet. You don't need a 50-page binder. Start with a one-page incident response plan that answers, if we suspect a cyber incident, what do we do? Who do we call? Decide who will take charge in the event of an incident. It could be you, or an IT lead, or an external consultant. List a few key contacts, IT support provider, legal counsel, major clients, that you might need to notify. Write down some basic steps to take for different scenarios, like ransomware hits. Step 1. Isolate the affected computer by unplugging the network cables or disabling the Wi-Fi. Step 2. Notify your IT provider and insurance company. Step 3. Communicate with employees not to turn any other machines off. You have to preserve evidence, and so on. If you handle personal data, know your legal obligations. For example, certain breaches may need notification to authorities or affected individuals. It might sound heavy, but templates for incident response plans are available, and you can adapt them to your needs. Run a quick fire drill discussion. If we were hacked, what would we do first? Talking it through is a huge step to being prepared. The NIST Cybersecurity Framework emphasizes having and practicing response plans because in the heat of the moment, a clear head and a clear plan make all the difference. Once your plan is in place, make sure everybody knows how to find it, whether it's a printed copy, shared drive, or somewhere else, and what their role is. Even a receptionist needs to know, for instance, how to route a critical phone call or spot social engineering attempts. Test your plan at least annually. Maybe simulate a phishing email or a fake outage to see how your team handles it. Use that to improve the plan. Plan for recovery and backup continuity. Recovery overlaps with response but focuses on the aftermath. Ensure your backups work by testing them. It's one thing to say, we have a backup of our data, but have you tried restoring the file from a backup? Do it once in a non-emergency setting to be confident it'll work when needed. Also consider if your main database server goes down, do you have a spare machine or cloud service to fail over to? Even having a secondary laptop with essential software configured can be a lifesaver if your primary system is compromised. Keep a list of emergency contacts, not just for people, but for service providers. For example, your internet provider's hotline or your cloud software support number, so you can reach them quickly if systems are down. During recovery, communication is key. Draft some generic messaging in advance for customers, something like, we're experiencing a technical issue and are working to restore services. Your data security is our top priority, and we'll update you when we learn more. You can fill in the specifics later, but having a calm, reassuring tone prepared helps avoid panic. Remember, recovery isn't just technical. It's about maintaining trust and fulfilling any obligations, like telling regulators or clients what happened, if required. After any incident, do a quick post-mortem. What went well, what didn't, and what can we improve? Feed those lessons back into your security practices. This way, each challenge makes you stronger. That might seem like a lot of steps, but you don't have to tackle them all at once. Think of it as an ongoing journey, the very road we've been talking about. The NIST Cybersecurity Framework is a continuous improvement process. You might start with strengthening your passwords and backups this month, then add network monitoring next month, and so on. The framework is there to guide you, so you can always refer to those 5 functions if you feel lost. Ask yourself, how are we doing on identity? What's one more thing we can do to protect this quarter? And so forth. Also, leverage external resources and expertise. There are communities, online forums, and local IT consultants who are familiar with the NIST Cybersecurity Framework and can offer advice. NIST's own Small Business Cybersecurity Corner, it's on their website, is full of free guidance and even training materials for employees. You're not alone on this road. By starting with these steps, you're already far ahead of many of your peers. Cybersecurity can feel intimidating, but as we've broken it down, it hopefully feels more like common sense business hygiene. Much like keeping good financial books or having insurance. It's part of running a healthy modern business. And just like those other tasks, you don't have to do it single-handedly. Assign roles within your team and get help where needed. What's important is you begin. Every journey starts with that first step, and you've got a roadmap in hand. We've traveled quite a road on this discussion, from understanding why the NIST Cybersecurity Framework was created, to breaking down its 5 core functions, to seeing real-world examples of failure and success, and finally, to plotting some first steps for your own organization. Let's quickly recap those 5 functions in plain English. Identify what your critical assets and risks are. Protect those assets with appropriate safeguards. Detect incidents early before they become a big problem. Respond swiftly and smartly to contain the damage when something goes wrong. And recover to normal operations and learn from the event. These functions form a continuous loop, a living process that becomes part of how you do business. Think of them as 5 lanes on the road to cyber resilience. You need to keep an eye on all of them to drive smoothly. The NIST Cybersecurity Framework is often described as a journey, not a destination, and I hope you feel more comfortable taking these first steps of that journey. We've seen that you don't need to be a tech wizard to improve your company's cybersecurity. It's about leadership, smart planning, and using the right tools and practices, many of which are low cost or even free. By adopting this framework, you're aligning yourself with what many successful organizations, big and small, are doing to manage risk. You're essentially saying, I'm going to be proactive and take control of my cybersecurity, rather than leaving it to chance. That's a confident stance, and it's the right one. As we wrap up, imagine the road ahead for your business. There will always be new cyber threats, just like there are always twists and turns in any journey. But now you have a sturdy vehicle and a reliable map. You know the key pit stops: identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover, and you're gaining the skills to navigate obstacles. And you're not driving alone. There's a whole community of business experts and resources out there on this same road, ready to help if you need a hand. The next step is yours to take. It could be as simple as having a conversation with your team about today's video, or setting aside an hour to assess your risks, or reaching out to a consultant for an initial security checkup. Whatever it is, commit to it and put it on your calendar. Each action you take will make your business a bit safer and your mind a bit more at ease. In the long run, these investments in cybersecurity can save you tremendous pain and cost, even becoming a selling point. Customers and partners appreciate a business that takes security seriously. Are you ready to embark on the cybersecurity journey with confidence? With the NIST Cybersecurity Framework as your guide, you can move forward knowing you're doing the right things to protect your company's future. This road may not have a final end. Security is an ongoing effort, but every mile you travel makes you stronger and more resilient against whatever challenges come. If you've made it this far, thank you for watching. My wife doesn't believe anybody watches these things. If you found value in this content, please give it a thumbs up. It helps our channel grow and allows more businesses to benefit from these cybersecurity insights. Don't forget to subscribe so you'll never miss out on our latest videos. And remember, if you're looking for personalized cybersecurity support or guidance on any of the topics we cover, Flat Earth Networking is here to help. Visit us at flatearth.net or contact us directly. Links and details are in the description below. Stay safe out there in the digital world, and remember, cybersecurity is a shared journey. I encourage you to take what you've learned today and take the next step, no matter how small, to put it into practice. Your business, your employees, and your customers will be better off for it. Good luck, and see you on the road to cyber resilience.